You expect your brain to be um, a reliable engine. Like you turn the key, you get horsepower.
Right, you put in the fuel, you get predictable reasoning.
Exactly. You were a rational, clear-thinking person on Tuesday, so you logically assume, well, I'm going to be a rational, clear-thinking person on Wednesday.
Makes sense.
But then what happens when you step outside your front door and it's minus 40-degree weather and the door just clicks locked behind you?
Oh, man.
Your high-performance engine doesn't just stall out. It actually, it starts actively working against you.
Yeah, because that engine, it was never designed to maintain logical consistency during a threat. It was designed to keep you alive for the next 5 minutes,
Yeah.
whatever the cognitive cost.
And that biological pivot point where our intelligence just degrades in real time and gets replaced by sheer panic, that is our mission today.
It's a fascinating shift to look at.
Oh, for sure. Welcome to today's deep dive, everyone. We are exploring cognitive chaos.
Yeah, specifically looking at excerpts from this really fascinating script called Cognitive Chaos, The High Cost of Stress Systems.
Right, and we're looking at how acute stress doesn't actually sharpen our focus like we see in the movies.
Not at all.
Right, it actually degrades our intelligence, and we're going to talk about how we can bulletproof our lives against our own, stressed out minds. Okay, let's unpack this by dropping right into that nightmare scenario we mentioned.
Oh, the Canadian freeze story.
Yes. So picture a guy living in Canada, the dead of winter. It's minus 40 degrees outside.
Which, let's be honest, isn't even weather anymore. It's just, it's an environmental hostility.
Yeah, it's basically space.
Yeah.
So he steps out onto his porch for just a split second. Maybe he's grabbing a package or maybe checking the mail, and the heavy front door swings shut.
Click.
Click.
Click. The sound of a life-threatening emergency just instantly crystallizing.
And he's in pajama pants. No keys, no phone. The cold hits his lungs like shattered glass, and that immediate visceral panic just sets in.
His heart rate probably goes from resting to like 140 beats per minute in seconds.
Literally seconds. His breathing gets shallow. It's like a computer suddenly dedicating 99% of its processing power to a really loud, flashing error message.
Right, freezing everything else out.
Exactly. The screen freezes, the cooling fans are just screaming, and you absolutely cannot open a single new application. So people usually think stress makes them hyper-focused, right? Like adrenaline gives us superpowers. Is it true that stress actually ruins our brain in that moment?
It really is.
Yeah.
It's a complete hijacking of the executive system.
Really? A complete hijack.
Yeah. The moment that door clicks, your body recognizes a mortal threat, right?
Yeah.
And it initiates this very primitive survival protocol by flooding the whole system with cortisol.
Right, the stress hormone.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Now, we all know cortisol is fantastic if your emergency requires purely physical output.
Like fighting a bear?
Yeah. Running from a predator, lifting a heavy beam off someone, whatever. Cortisol is your best friend there. It reroutes all available energy away from long-term projects like digestion or your immune response.
Oh, wow. It shuts down digestion.
Right, because you don't need to digest lunch if you're about to be at lunch. It pumps all that energy directly into your major muscle groups. You get fast legs and quick reflexes.
But the trade-off is massive, isn't it?
Huge. You get the fast legs, but you completely lose your ability to solve a complex puzzle. You lose your prefrontal cortex.
The prefrontal cortex, that's the logical part, right?
Yes. It's the part responsible for logic, problem-solving, rational decision-making, and impulse control. Cortisol effectively just dims the lights in that entire region.
That is so wild. So you're basically running blind intellectually.
Pretty much. While the body is perfectly primed to fight or flee, the executive function, the part of you that could logically figure out how to jimmy the lock or evaluate which neighbor's house is safest to run to, that part is just forced offline.
So you are operating on a biological script that fundamentally ruins complex thought.
Exactly.
It's terrifying, honestly, when you realize that your rational self is just shoved into the trunk and a panicked primitive instinct just takes the steering wheel.
It gets worse because it's not just that he's confused.
Right.
The physical reaction creates this really dangerous phenomenon, the illusion of competence.
The illusion of competence. Because his brain doesn't send a helpful little pop-up notification saying, warning, logic systems compromised.
No, it actually makes him feel like he's making great decisions.
That is so deceptive.
It's incredibly dangerous.
Yeah.
The stress narrows your peripheral vision both literally and metaphorically. You lock onto one single, often really flawed idea, and your brain manufactures this false sense of urgency and conviction around it.
So you feel hyper-focused, but you're actually completely blind to alternative solutions.
Exactly. which directly sets up the absolute disaster that happens the very next morning. The stress hangover.
Yes, the sequel to the nightmare. Because surviving the cold is only part one of the ordeal.
Right.
So let's say our guy survives the night. Maybe he breaks a basement window, gets back inside, shivers for 3 hours, and manages to sleep a bit. But the next morning, he has a flight to catch.
Oh, no.
Yeah. He is mentally exhausted. His nervous system is just totally fried from the near-death experience the night before.
He's still stressed.
Very. So he's rushing to the airport. He finally gets to the check-in terminal, reaches into his bag, and realizes he forgot his passport.
Oh, man. A soul-crushing realization under normal circumstances.
Right, let alone when you're running on an empty cognitive tank.
Absolutely brutal.
But here's the detail from the source text that really just gets under my skin.
Yeah.
He didn't just absentmindedly forget it. He actually thought he packed it. He had this vivid, unshakable internal conviction that he had placed it in his bag. He even remembered checking the bag like 3 times before leaving the house. This source has this great analogy. It says his brain was basically buffering like slow Wi-Fi, just dropping frames left and right. But wait, if his brain was buffering and failing, why was he so stubbornly confident that he had packed it? Like, does stress actually manufacture false confidence?
What's fascinating here is the lengths to which the human brain will go to protect itself from cognitive dissonance.
Cognitive dissonance, how so?
Well, under severe stress, your working memory becomes incredibly porous. Information like the physical act of grabbing a passport, it just falls right through the cracks.
It doesn't even record.
Right. But the brain absolutely despises a void. It hates the feeling of not knowing, especially when the stakes are high.
So it just acts like an overconfident liar, just makes something up to fill the gap.
Basically, yes. It acts like a prediction machine relying on outdated data. Rather than admitting, I don't know what we did with the passport, it defaults to established patterns.
Oh, I see.
In his mind, he always packs his passport when going to the airport. Because his stress-addled brain failed to encode the memory of not packing it, it just served up the most comforting, familiar script available.
Which is, of course, you packed it, you checked the bag.
Exactly. The acute stress completely blinded his metacognition. That's the ability to accurately judge his own mental state. He thought he was thinking clearly, but he was actually making critical errors.
The buffering Wi-Fi analogy is almost too generous then. It's not just that the video stops. The computer starts hallucinating a completely different, happier movie and tells you it's the right one.
And you believe it wholeheartedly. You think you are operating with total clarity, but your brain is feeding you these comforting fictions just to try and stabilize a panicked nervous system.
And those fictions lead to critical, cascading errors at the absolute worst possible times.
Exactly.
Okay, so if our stressed brains are effectively lying to us and we can't trust them in the heat of the moment, then the standard advice to just stay calm during an emergency is completely useless.
Oh, totally useless. You can't just willpower your way out of a cortisol flood.
Right. Therefore, the strategy must shift to before the stress ever hits.
You engineer your environment so that you never have to rely on a compromised brain in the first place.
Which brings us to the source's core solution. This beautifully simple, almost universally applicable protocol. Before you do anything important, you ask one basic question. What could go wrong?
It's so simple but profound.
Right. Before you travel, you ask, what if I lose my wallet? Before a big exam, what if my laptop dies? Before posting content, what if the audio is bad? It is the art of anticipation over reaction.
It's a preemptive strike against your own inevitable future panic.
Yes. And I love the relatable example from the text for this, the classic mom versus dad approach.
Oh, the mom protocol. That's a great one.
Yeah, moms generally operate on this exact anticipatory protocol. They are walking risk assessment engines. They already think of every disaster possible. They're at the door saying, take a jacket, charge your phone, bring extra cash.
They solve the disaster hours before it ever materializes.
Exactly. While dads, on the other hand, usually rely on the classic mantra, we'll figure it out.
Right.
Which usually ends in nobody figuring it out and everyone freezing in a parking lot. Here's where it gets really interesting. Why is that we'll figure it out mentality so deeply flawed biologically?
Because we'll figure it out is an ego trap. It assumes you will be the hero of the moment, with your cognitive engine running at maximum capacity when the problem strikes.
When we already know it won't be.
Exactly. It's rooted in that exact false confidence we just broke down. The mom approach, asking what could go wrong, is actually a highly sophisticated cognitive strategy. In corporate risk management, It's called a premortem.
A premortem, like doing an autopsy on a failure, but before you've actually failed.
Precisely. You project yourself into a hypothetical future where the disaster has already happened, the wallet is lost, the laptop is dead, and you work backward to figure out what caused it and how to prevent it today.
Smart people think before the disaster happens, not after.
Right. They deeply understand that their future self, the self standing in the freezing cold, is going to be dumber, slower, and highly prone to panic. The entire goal of this preemptive mindset is to circumvent the cortisol trap entirely.
If you already have the jacket, the threat never registers.
Exactly. The environment is secured, so your prefrontal cortex stays online.
So anticipating problems is the necessary mental shift. Admitting to yourself right now that you will be cognitively compromised in the future. But how do we physicalize that preparation? We can't just think our way to safety.
No, we have to build tangible systems. The physical manifestation of anticipation is a hard, inflexible system.
And the harshest rule of that system from the text is this: stop depending on your memory. Because under stress, memory is trash.
Absolute trash.
This is the root cause of why people frantically search for their car keys every morning. The source's advice is to keep important things in one place.
Right.
Not two places, not wherever is convenient, one single location. The keys go in the bowl by the door. The passport is in a specific drawer.
By doing that, you remove the burden of active recall completely.
But there's a really bold quote from the text tied to this. It says, "Rich people love systems. Poor people love Allwarn." I'll remember. Right. And obviously, we aren't talking about financial wealth here. We are talking about mental wealth. But it begs the question, are we really that forgetful as a species, or are we just carrying too much mental load?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, we have to look at the massive evolutionary mismatch between how our brains developed and how we live today. Most people are not lazy, they aren't irresponsible, they are just profoundly, chronically overwhelmed.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Our biological hard drive was never designed to hold 20 passwords, track subscriptions, manage group texts, and remember where we tossed a tiny piece of metal that starts our car.
We are running way too many background applications. Our internal RAM is just at 99% capacity trying to survive a Tuesday.
Exactly. So when you confidently say, "I'll remember where I put those keys," you're placing a massive bet on a biological system that is already overtaxed.
And the second a minor stressor hits, like you're running late, that memory is wiped.
Yep. A physical system, like a designated hook, takes that cognitive demand and offloads it into the physical environment. The system remembers for you.
And what blows my mind is the monetization angle from the text. The fact that our cognitive load is maxed out has birthed a multi-billion-dollar industry.
Oh, yeah. It is arguably one of the most reliable business models in existence.
Tech companies make absolute fortunes by solving our tiny memory failures. AirTags, reminder apps, cloud storage, these exist purely because a tiny human problem equals huge money.
And we gladly pay the premium, because the emotional relief of outsourcing that mental burden is immense.
It totally does. But losing your keys or forgetting an AirTag is ultimately a tiny, annoying problem. What happens when the exact same cognitive failure happens when the stakes are life or death?
That is where this quirk of human biology transitions into genuine tragedy.
Let's take this into the saddest and most serious part of the source material, the place where cognitive chaos hits its undeniable peak, the hospital.
There is arguably no environment more intensely charged with acute stress than a hospital room.
Just picture the scene. Fluorescent lights buzzing, monitors beeping, a doctor walks in and delivers a serious diagnosis. You need emergency surgery. At that exact moment, nobody in that room is thinking properly.
The panic is immediate.
The cortisol floods the system just like the guy locked out in the cold. And families, completely unprepared, just start saying yes to every single intervention the doctor suggests.
Just to make the unbearable panic stop.
Exactly.
This raises an important question regarding why families avoid talking about serious medical decisions beforehand. Medical professionals urge families to have these discussions, but practically no one does it.
Because it's uncomfortable. Nobody wants to sit around the dinner table on a calm evening and say, "Hey, if I end up on life support, what's our game plan?"
It feels unnatural to discuss trauma in times of peace, but avoiding the conversation guarantees cognitive chaos during an emergency. When it hits, those family members are going to experience that exact same prefrontal cortex shutdown.
They won't be able to weigh surgical risks.
No, they'll be highly susceptible to whatever authoritative voice is pushing for action.
They'll be hallucinating false confidence or drowning in panic.
Exactly. Having an advance directive or just an honest conversation beforehand is the ultimate preemptive system. It's the medical equivalent of putting your keys in the bowl.
Wow, you are literally outsourcing the hardest choice you will ever make to the smartest version of yourself.
Precisely.
Well, from the heavy realities of the hospital, I want to circle back to the everyday habits that give us peace of mind. Let's reveal the ending of our Canadian guy's story.
Yes. He had to figure out a permanent fix.
He did. After surviving the cold and the passport disaster, he didn't rely on willpower. He didn't promise to remember better. He completely bypassed his own brain. He spent $20, bought a physical lockbox, bolted it outside his house, and put a spare key in it.
Such a beautifully mundane, simple fix.
But the psychological return on investment is massive. He structurally guaranteed the problem was solved, the environment was secured.
It is the perfect encapsulation of the ultimate takeaway here.
Right. Life becomes easier when you prepare before problems happen. Being organized is just cheaper than being stressed. So what does this all mean?
It means it's time to do a personal premortem. Tonight, you need to ask yourself, what problem keeps happening in my life? Identify that recurring point of friction and build one system to fix it. Don't rely on your memory. Future. You'll be incredibly grateful that past you took 10 minutes to set it up.
I love that. It's all about protecting yourself from yourself. But before we wrap up today's deep dive, I want to leave you with one final unscripted thought to ponder that builds on the text.
Okay.
If we successfully systematize our entire lives, outsourcing our memory to lockboxes, AirTags, and cloud reminders to bypass our flawed, stressed-out brains, do we risk weakening our natural mental resilience?
Mm-hmm.
If we never have to figure it out in a panic, what happens to us when a truly novel, unplannable disaster strikes? Does outsourcing our memory make our brains weaker, or does it free up our minds for true genius? Something to think about. Until next time.